It can be incredibly daunting when you first start learning how to cook with herbs and spices. In this mini series, I'd like to help you navigate through that using fresh herbs, dried herbs, spices, what they are, how you grow them, what you do, and just make it a little bit simpler for you. My name's Pam. This is my channel, The Blue Pixie. Welcome in. So in this episode of How to Cook with Herbs and Spices, I'd like to introduce you to the whys and wherefores of growing and cooking herbs and spices. So what exactly is a herb and what is a spice? Well, a herb are all the green bits, the leaves, the stems, and the colourful bits, like the flowers. So, all the bits pretty much that are above ground, except the spices. Now, spices are the roots, the bark, and the seeds. So there are two types of Herbie plants. One that's a perennial, like this olive, and the bay, that turn into woody shrubs or trees. And then you've got your annuals. Oh no. Yes, you have annuals. Very sad looking chives at the moment because, to be honest, they really had their dash during the year. But as chives go, they tend to grow back. I don't have any actual annuals here at the moment. All of mine are perennial herbs, pretty much. Which means that they just keep growing. And I just leave them and they keep growing. And then they keep growing, which is great. Whereas spices tend to come off trees or annuals at their end of life when it comes down to their seeds. So, yeah. Or in the case of cinnamon, someone who sits there with a fancy knife and chips away at the bark. Yeah. Having a small variety of herb plants in your garden can make your cooking so much easier and fresher. Make life completely so much easier. Of course, the great thing about it is if you do have a bit of land that you can put them in, most perennial herbs are quite good with being abandoned unless you go through a bit of a hot spot and then you kind of need to water them maybe once every couple of days. Spices, on the other hand, can be a little bit more tricky, and the majority of spices that we use these days come from places that are a long way away. Cassia bark from China, cinnamon from Ceylon, you know, quite a ways away, and completely different climate, a lot warmer climates, and a little bit trickier to grow here, as your average star anise tree grows up to 70 to 80 feet. It doesn't fit in the normal backyard polytunnel so much. Thankfully though, many of us have a kitchen windowsill, if we don't have a bit of land, that we can actually grow something a little bit more exotic. Here you can see that I'm growing ginger. It's also a good place to grow things like coriander and basil. Have a variety of herbs on your windowsill. So why do we use herbs and spices in our food and cooking and food preservation? Well, there's a couple answers to that. Number one, flavour. Okay, you could have nothing but chicken to cook for the next week, but you could do 7 different dishes out of that just by changing nothing else but the herbs and spices you put with it. Secondly, human beings have been using herbs and spices for medicine for millennia. They've known about the health benefits of it for millennia, and thankfully there are scientists now that are actually finding that this is very much the case in a lot of herbs and spices. And so, yeah, it basically, as you make dinner, you could be taking your medicine. Just think, a spicy pudding could end up, you know, helping your angina. Who knows? Well, actually, I know. You see, I'm a qualified herbalist, nutritionist, and dietitian. And one of the things I would like to tell you right now is that before you decide that you want to do, you know, herbs and spices as your medicine, you need to seek medical advice. There's a lot of things that they are great and great alternatives to medicine, but a lot of things can go wrong as well. So you need to work with your GP and see someone like myself, who is a qualified herbalist, nutritionist, or dietitian, and work together to see what would work best for you and your circumstances. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, I would really like to welcome and, you know, invite you to the next 3 videos, which will be over the next 3 weeks. Our first one's going to be on fresh herbs, the second on dried herbs, and the third is going to be spices, all on their own. And we're going to go through different ways of using them, putting them together, etc. And so that it's just not all as daunting as you might think it is right now when you're starting out. Now, somewhere along here, I'm hoping, or maybe it'll be here, there'll be a link to the playlist that I did last year on making your own spice blends. I will be continuing that this year and doing the second season of Herbs and Spices by doing the matching herb blends. So until next week, have a really great rest of your day. See you later, guys. Bye.